Do you know that that which the Lord describes as good in Scripture has the ability or the potential to reproduce its own life? Stay with me a minute and I will show you what I'm talking about. Genesis 1:21 to 24. So we see what was happening in the scripture was that it was talking about the animals that were created, those in the sea, the land, the air, and all of that. And it talked about how they produce abundantly after their kind. Immediately after, it says, and God saw that it was good. And then after, it talks about how the Lord blessed them and says, be fruitful and multiply. So what's happening was the Lord saw that they could produce after their kind, and they did reproduce after their kind. And only then did He say that this thing is good. So look at that account, you see that happening all over again. And then the only time He comes and says it is not good was the fact that was when He saw Adam staying alone. And He says, this one is not good. It is not good because he hadn't created the mechanism for him to reproduce himself or the life of God within him. So what's happening in the scriptures? Two things. We see that God has set the mechanism for all of creation, and those who were utilizing it were called good, or the system was called good. The second thing we see happening in this scripture is the fact that the standard of good was set, and it is those who have the ability to reproduce after the kind that God has given them, or after the life that God has given them. What am I trying to say? Do you remember the story of the talent? I find that story very fascinating because the master was the one who gave. The servant did not ask for anything. He called every single one of them and decided to give to them according to on his own accord. And then he gives to them. And this guy did not steal. He didn't do anything with the money. At the very least, he returned the money. Even if you consider that, okay, he wasted time, but he did return the money. He didn't steal it. He didn't abscond, nothing. And yet I find it fascinating that the Bible intentionally used the word wicked, that the man was wicked, the servant was wicked. And I always used to think about it, but now I understand, because to God, that was not him reproducing good. So if God has given you a talent, as in the case of the servant, it is not it's not you not doing anything with it or absconding with it. The fact that you are not working the purpose for which it has been given, and that you're not reproducing the life that He had given you beforehand, He considers evil. Can you imagine that? So the wicked servant was called wicked, and he was called evil for this one thing, and he was punished for it. But anyways, going back to the concept of good in your life, what is that thing that you feel has the life of God embedded within it? Now, once you identify it, you've identified the system of good in everything that God has given you. The next thing is to be intentional about reproducing and multiplying it. Remember, it was a mandate that was given from the garden. It hasn't changed. You have to be fruitful, you have to multiply. So the onus is on you is to be intentional about it. Remember, this is the year of the builders, and we are intentional builders. The fact that the Lord is calling for prosperity is calling for fertility. Now, let me even intrigue you. The word good in Hebrew is actually tov, and tov means fertility. It means good, it means fertility, and it means prosperity. So God is looking for fertility, prosperity, and, well, good, for a lack of a better word, in your life and with everything He has given you. So we need to sit back. We need to actually start to plan and be intentional. We need to look at some of the things that the Lord has placed in our hands, be it the resources He has given us. Our talents are actually our natural talents, the people that He has sent to us. We need to look at the time and the season we have in our lives right now and begin to consider them. So I pray you're able to do this in this season. God bless you. Thank you once again.